session for May 15th, 2023. We are going to start this evening with the Bravo annual update. You all would like to come up and introduce yourselves.
Yeah.
Bob Kling, I'm the 28E rep for Bravo Greater Des Moines. And you know, I've been in front of the council many times, bragging about all the good work that Bravo does. Also here is Michael Eagle, and Michael, of course, the Metro Opera has benefited greatly from Bravo, along with our carousel theater. I brag quite a bit, as I said, about how great Bravo is, and it's kind of my pride to be able to introduce one of the people that really has helped make Bravo one of the premier art organizations, and that is Sally Gaspar.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much. I do share appreciation for Bob Kling. He represents the city of Indianola so well and has been on our board for such a long time. We're very grateful for your support from the community and also for Bob's participation. I have about 6 slides. I'm going to go relatively quickly here. There's a lot of work baked in, but I'm anxious to share some of what we've been working on and some of what we have to be proud of. And I hope you'll jump in if you've got any questions along the way. First, just a quick refresher, because I know there are some new council members, a little bit of history. Bravo was formed in 2004 when regional business and community leaders recognized the critical role that quality of life would play in our region's future. And they determined at that point that a regional entity dedicated to arts and culture would not only be efficient, but also effective. We were originally a collaboration between 9 local governments. We now have 17 local government partners, and we continue to act as a steward for hotel motel tax revenues that the cities contribute. We truly deeply believe that arts and culture are connected to every single regional priority, from talent development to economic growth, mental health to transportation. Arts and culture can and should play a role. The strategy, of course, that we're best known for is our grant making for community investment, and we take our role as stewards of public funds extremely seriously. I'm proud to say that on behalf of our local partner governments, we've invested more than $50 million in the last 20 years. In our most recent grant cycle, we had 85 cultural partners located in 13 of our 17 communities. One thing that we're keeping watch of is that's actually 20 more organizations than we were funding pre-pandemic. That is not the trend I'm hearing from colleagues across the country, and we're anxious to see whether that continues. Just for frame of reference, annual operating budgets for the organizations Bravo support range from $2,500 up to $24 million. 66% of Bravo's cultural partners have annual operating budgets of below $250,000. There is sometimes a thought that we are only funding the big organizations, and the data just don't bear that out. It's important also for you to know that more than 50% of the organizations that Bravo support are actually entirely volunteer run. So the vast majority of organizations that Bravo is funding in the community are really small and serving critically important local needs, as well as adding to the regional cultural landscape. Of course, supporting our nonprofit organizations is core and central to Bravo's mission. We will always do that, but we also recognize there are other ways to be supporting a robust cultural climate in the region. This includes direct investment back into the communities that support Bravo. Recognizing that public art was a top priority for many metro cities, in 2019, Bravo actually added a public art grant program. This program is to support public art master planning or the development and installation of actual pieces of public art that generate more local creative connections. This grant program is actually only open to our 17 28E partners, and we've invested nearly $300,000 in the 2 years that we've run the program. The cycle just closed. We'll be making announcements about this 3rd year of investing here shortly, but we anticipate this is a program that we will continue as it's been well received by our 28E partners. We're also currently piloting a reimbursement program to support city-sponsored youth arts engagement programs in arts and culture. Indianola is currently eligible for this program through June 30th. It's a pilot program, but we encourage you to get more information about that and see if there's something that we can do so that we can, again, directly reinvest in those youth arts experiences. If it's something that's successful through the pilot, we will explore continuing it in future years. Beyond grant making, Bravo also provides leadership on arts and culture issues and opportunities. There are just certain efforts and initiatives that a single grant to a single organization just can't achieve. So Bravo makes investments in projects or programs that further align arts and culture with regional priorities. A couple of examples here are Arts and Economic Prosperity 6. We're really excited that we'll have economic impact information here to share in October, updated economic impact information to share in October. This is a study being run nationally by Americans for the Arts, and it's hugely valuable for us to have the data. Dream Cube is a project that Bravo ran with Mid-Iowa Health Foundation, coming together to support an artist to shine a light on youth homelessness. Not everybody's reading all the white papers about youth homelessness as a challenge. So by creating public art to help tell the story and increase visibility, we're drawing attention to this important issue for our community. We also run a program called Passport to Culture. This is funding that goes direct to the schools. Every school district in the 17 communities that Bravo supports is eligible for a per student reinvestment. And the Indianola Community School District received about $5,500 for this program this school year so that more students could have more access to arts and culture. All of the work we do, of course, provides intrinsic value, drives creativity, innovation, and feeds quality of life. But I want to be clear that it also has substantial economic impact. I'm sorry to say that this data is a little bit old. We were supposed to run another study in 2020, which obviously would have been dumb. So we are waiting for the data that we will get here in October. But even looking back to 2015, you can see that the organizations that Bravo was supporting in the region generated $185 million worth of economic impact. For reference, that year, Bravo invested about $3.5 million. For anyone who's not quick on the math, that's about 50 to 1 in terms of return on investment. I would challenge you to find another way to spend public dollars that are generating that kind of return. Coming out of the pandemic, just as many of the organizations we support, communities, everyone is reimagining their future. So is Bravo. We are making sure that we are continuing to strengthen a resilient and connected cultural sector. We have to continue to reach beyond economic development and quality of life to make sure that arts and culture are seen as essential. Bravo already plays a leadership role in this work, and we're firmly committed into evolving into a true regional arts council. We will always maintain our primary focus on grant making and support for our nonprofit organizations. But for Bravo to remain nimble and responsive and relevant to future vitality of arts and culture in Greater Des Moines, we are intentionally focusing on a broader scope of services. We are amplifying and championing the role of arts and culture in delivering broader economic, civic, and social impact. We are connecting and strengthening relationships between the cultural sector and the broader community. We are cultivating initiatives that establish arts, culture, and heritage as a priority driver of regional identity. These are all tenets of our current strategic plan, and we are actively implementing this work. As we wrap up, if you remember just one thing about this presentation or the role that Bravo plays for our community, please remember that Indianola's support for Bravo means support for every regional priority. From economic development to mental health, education, and civic dialogue, arts and culture are essential community pillars and a strong investment of public funds. I really appreciate the chance to present tonight. I do want to thank Bob again for his leadership. I'm happy to take any questions before handing it over to Michael Eagle, who wants to share a couple of updates about the opera as well. He also serves on the Bravo Board of Directors.
Just have one quick question on the children's pilot program. What was the date you said by June?
June 30th.
If then that's just something to get signed up for, that doesn't mean it has to be done by June.
Nope, the funds have to be spent. It's $2,500, and we are reimbursing cities. What we've found is that often, for example, a city's Parks and Recreation department is running youth programming. We're finding that a lot of our Parks and Recreation departments are running a lot of soccer, baseball, outdoor sports, but they're not running as many arts and culture programs. So this funding is to offset the costs of providing arts and culture programming through existing Bravo cultural partners. So it isn't that you have to lead a painting class. Right. You just have to contract with one of Bravo's existing cultural partners to come and do that work. And we will 100% reimburse for that, see how many kids participate, how that works in the communities, and again, decide whether to continue that after this year or not.
That could also be something, I know the library does various youth, really young kids, arts and stuff, and so that could be the same thing with the library, is that correct?
Again, the library, as long as it's a city-run entity, and every city's a little different, but as long as it's a city-run entity and it's contracting with a Bravo cultural partner to
Okay.
do that, then yes, absolutely, they're eligible for that. You should have received an email. If you need more information, let me know and I can have it resent.
Sally, so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally and Bob, and I want to also introduce Elise Morris on our staff, who's an Indianola resident and a very valuable member of our team. My name is Michael Eagle. I'm the General and Artistic Director for Des Moines Metro Opera and an Indianola resident. I'm thrilled to be here tonight, even amidst the actual beginnings of our festival, the very first wave of about 250 staff members that will be working to create the festival here in Indianola started arriving a couple of hours ago. So we really are just beginning the thick of it. At your table, I gave you some information about Des Moines Metro Opera. One thing is, of which is a brochure, a ticket brochure detailing the shows coming up this season. And I know that every one of you already has your tickets, so it's actually not for you, it's for you to give to a friend to encourage them to get their tickets soon. We are actually selling very well this year. I always knock on wood when I say that, but we finished a 50th anniversary season last year with record ticket sales, and they're actually even doing better this year in the 51st season. We had anticipated maybe a little bit of a decrease just naturally on the after anniversary season, but the opposite's been true. So if you don't have your tickets, you can call. We won't identify you tomorrow, and you can call directly and order your tickets. But do encourage your friends and your friends' friends to snap up the remaining tickets. We have Carmen, which couldn't be a better first opera to choose, along with two what we're calling fairy tales from the Fringe, called Bluebeard's Castle and The Love for Three Oranges. And if you can tell me what some of those are about after they are finished, you will win a prize. And then subsequent to that, we have two second stages show, one called Driving While Black and the other called The Falling and the Rising, in partnership with Camp Dodge out in. It's going to be a great season and a great year. Tonight, you're getting a bit of a sneak peek of some information that we will be releasing to the public in a few days here regarding our 22 economic impact study. You have the full study at your place there. At the desk that you can look into after the meeting. We will spend some time with that. And then at the front, there's a cover sheet that I'd like to just call your attention to some of the overview executive summary information. This study was conducted by Mark Immerman from Regional Strategies Ltd. In March of 2021, based on our economic impact and our activity during our fiscal year in 2022. Again, that was our 50th anniversary. And a few things that I'll highlight about this study. During 2022, DMMO welcomed a total of 10,761 attendees, 6,364 of those are local or Golden Circle based, and 4,397 non-local attendees. As a part of that year and due to that attendance, as well as the 250 to 275 company members who live and work in Indianola and Warren County for several months out of the summer, DMMO was responsible for the following in the 3-county region of Polk, Warren, and Dallas counties. That's $12 million in local sales or output, $8 million in direct economic activity or production, and $5 million in labor income. The combined effect of DMMO and non-local attendee expenditure was an economic footprint in Dallas, Polk, and Warren counties of $11,930,000, and economic impact generated by non-local funding to DMMO was $1,449,000. And I think the high-level summary of our fiscal year 2022 and this study, the thing I like to point out to you all is that every dollar that is donated to or spent to benefit Des Moines Metro Opera doubles its value in economic impact in our local economy. So you get the sneak peek of this. Supporting data is found in the packet that I put at place. and I'll be extremely proud of, extremely happy about, and I'm happy to take any questions or upcoming season.
Michael, on the non-local, you said it was the Golden Circle, so non-local would be obviously, how many, I guess what my question is gonna be is how many would we have from out of state? Do we have any idea how many attended from that?
Give me just a second. 66 Iowa counties, 42 states. I have to try to at least back me up on those things. 42 states, and then last year there were other countries represented.
Very cool.
And the rough split of attendees is about 65% Golden Circle area attendees and 45% of the audience is outside that area and from other parts of Iowa or states beyond.
Means they have to usually find hotels, they have to eat restaurants, many of those kinds of economic.
That is very correct.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Great summary. Thank you.
See you at the season.
There you
Yeah,
go.
before you go, I do want to mention a couple things that we're very fortunate. You know, we've always bragged about how great Bravo is, or at least I have anyway, and the benefits that we get. But the important thing to understand is that Bravo, we believe in Metro as a region. And how many times in Indianola we brag about, oh, we're so close to the Arts Center, or we're so close to the Symphony. And those are some of the entities that we support because we don't have our own. So we really need to truly think about the Des Moines Metro as a region. The last thing I'm gonna mention that I promised I wouldn't, but I love this story. The very first time Sally came here to the council meeting, she said, I can't believe it's packed in here. All these people here are just about Bravo. And I leaned over and I said, on the topic tonight is the word chickens.
All right, we will move on to the wellness facility transition update from City Manager Ben Reeves.
You're going well. There's a lot going on. Jason, can I jump on? There is a lot going on. Our staff is extremely busy and I just want to extend appreciation to all of them for their various efforts. So far, we've been working mostly independently, different departments working with the YMCA staff trying to work on the conversion plans and all that type of thing. But we are now starting an internal and inclusive meeting with staff to meet together on a weekly basis just to cover all the things that need to be done. So on your agenda tonight is three actions, really two actions that turn into a third. One is the facility name, and the YMCA did an exercise with patrons coming in, putting down the names of different ideas, and ultimately coming to the conclusion what the name that they're recommending to you is the Indianola Wellness Campus. Wanted to stay away from center because of senior center and other things like that. And the formation of a board of trustees, basically your 7-member board that follows suit with all the different boards that we have and how it would line out and be created. So that's one action on the council agenda for later tonight. And then software, that's the next big thing. So the reason that the name is so important is because we have a heck of a lot of work to do for setting up insurance programs, and silver sneakers and other programming can be used at memberships can come in, but we couldn't really move forward until we had a name. But the software contract is another aspect. We intentionally went after the same software provider as the YMCA so that we could have the same database set up. We can transition all of the membership over. All the employees are for the most part trained in that product. The aspects of the training that they need to obtain is the administrative things that are handled at the association level. That's going to be going on fairly soon. So those were the big things that are going on right now. One thing on the software contract that I needed to get your engagement on is whether we wanted to go with a 3, a 5, or a 7-year contract with them. What's proposed in the packet is a 5-year contract. If we do want to extend the duration, the rate goes down. If we want to shorten the duration, the rate goes up. Any thoughts? And I'm not sure if that was shared, and I probably didn't share that. Those rates. It was in the memo. So you have that. Wonderful. Sorry, with the trip to DC last week. I was a little out of time. Any feelings, thoughts on your duration?
It's the only thing I would ask is, none of us are gonna be running it, so questions back to people that have, I mean, I'm assuming Heather has some history with it, so I wouldn't want to jump into something that we wouldn't know, but we do have a history with it, so I'm okay with going longer if that's.
We do have a termination clause that we could step away from the contract if we needed to. It does have a penalty in that, but it's less than 6 months in cost. So I felt fairly comfortable with whatever level want to move forward with. Heather seemed comfortable and very excited about having the same software being used to make it as smooth a transition as possible.
Is that member engagement software, or does that handle their books? I mean, how does everything then flow into Andy's finances?
So we're buying two components of their software product. The first is the membership software. So basically your phone, you can come in, scan in just like you do today. Everybody will be able to use it just as they do for signing up for classes and scheduling rooms. Everything with the membership side and us processing programming is one component. The second is the payment processing and billing software that takes care of all of the reaching out and draws and insurance and all that type of work to bring that in. We didn't sign up for accounts payable, payroll, or the general ledger because the city has all of those already. We are anticipating in the
Can I
very
just stop you for a second? Are we compatible with that though? So we can easily work that then? So from the city side?
we're going to need to draw that information in
Okay.
and make an import. So we're going to have to be
Working internally.
But we would have to do that
Okay.
anyway with any software provider
Okay.
out there. But the initial concern to make it as smooth as possible is we're keeping the GL numbers basically the same. I haven't talked to Andy about this. But within a very short period of time, once we're up and running, then we will provide them a list of the conversion numbers to the state system. And that will convert all of their GLs to RGLs and make it so that we're compliant with the state of Iowa. Because we have a GL requirement that needs to be completed by the end of the fiscal year for us. So there's a kind of a stepped approach and process. Make it all work. Going live is the hard part.
From Jason's perspective and IT perspective, then is this software going to be something that is easily updated and those kinds of things? I mean, those would be questions I guess I would ask from that standpoint. I'm with John. I don't have a problem going longer, just so that we know it's going to be continually updated and we're.
Jason's been involved at the very beginning.
It's 100% cloud-based. They maintain and update for us. So it's completely a program.
Okay, that's what I need to hear. I'm good with that. Yeah.
Did she talk about that at steering committee about the program that she wanted? Maybe it was not last time, but I think Heather's really comfortable with
Right.
it.
Yeah, Heather did talk about it, enjoying the software.
And looking forward to more support.
And if it's cheaper to go longer.
It's only $1,000 and I think maybe she wanted to have the option. I'm not, I don't want to speak for her,
I
but
think whatever
I don't know.
staff recommends is I think what we're comfortable with.
Right now it's proposed at 5, but we can go either direction.
Was what, 7?
There's a 3, 5, and 7-year option.
$1,000 different.
5 is.
Well, that's for the initial sign up, and then it's cheaper.
And then per month.
If they're comfortable with it for 5, I guess I don't know why they wouldn't be comfortable with 7.
I don't know that we have a strong feeling one way or another. If you are you want to go to 7, it does reduce the cost. And if we do want to have that provision to step away.
What's
maybe
that?
saying
Is there a cost to the stepping away?
There is, it's just under 6 months of,
How many years have they had this? How many years have they had this program? We know.
Or they acquired for, I want to say 5 years.
so core was,
Gone through a lot of iterations since then and only gotten better.
Okay.
core was developed by YMCA employees who formed their own company to provide them a product that was better than the product. It's been adopted by several YMCAs and now several municipal recreation centers across the country. 7 years?
Yeah, I take those.
By 7, yep.
Sounds good. Any concerns on the Board of Trustees? 7-member board? It's written or that? Upon the third reading, we will present names for the mayor's consideration and the council's consent with regard to the appointment of board members. I'll have that ready for you at that point. 501c3. The finance committee of the board, they have a whole bunch of different committees and those committees are being consolidated down to the Board of Trustees. But the finance committee really would like to see us have a little bit more independence and create our own 501c3 for the collection of donations that would be made that would be used by the center both for scholarships and for capital improvements. Basically, it would allow for a donor to designate how they want their money spent or leave it to the choice of the Board of Trustees. It does take a little bit of time and effort to set up a 501c3. Mostly it's the IRS components of it, plus a little bit of legal fees for us to do the initial setup. Their preference is to maintain that independence. Concerns or thoughts from the council, as opposed to utilizing the parks, the one that's out there today that kind of is that umbrella for many different organizations throughout the city.
It's a good idea to set it up. Separate it.
I think the perception is that we've been under the association for so long and there is some concern. It's always been said that those monies stay with that facility and the association took those dollars and they say that they've returned them, but I think there's always been this community sense of maybe a lack of trust in the association. And this gives them more assurance right up front, starting out the new facility. If I make a donation, it 100% stays within the Indianola Wellness campus. That's the feeling, gives the confidence to the community.
What's the ballpark cost of setting up?
It's about, I would guess it's about $2,000 to $3,000 for the legal fees for the initial setup and getting the IRS designation and whatnot, and a few $100s to do the filing of the tax. It's not a tax return or anything like that, but it's a statement of who's made donations so that 501c3 ties back to everyone's individual tax returns. So there's a filing at the end.
The amount of time it takes to set up?
That's good question. In the past, it's been about 6 months. During COVID, it was 18 months. So, getting started right away is important.
Good. Yeah.
Employee onboarding is going on. Communication has been sent out by the YMCA to their employees with options that they could choose. About half of them have responded thus far to start the onboarding process. And that process is going really well. It's lots of work ahead. Communications planning is going to need to be a really good communications plan all the way throughout to help members understand exactly what they need to do to have their memberships transition from one to another. And that's being developed right now. That goes to the membership transition as well to make it as smooth and seamless as possible. We anticipate that we will be working through the month of July, both a couple of weeks before and a couple of weeks after, trying to set up the new software so that people are encouraged or engaged. That they have to use it, and if it doesn't, we'll have personnel on property to be able to help people transition their membership. The concern is I have several members who don't go to the facility that often or at all. They've been benefactors or signing up to help with the facility. And so we're going to have to really do a good outreach program to ensure that they understand if they want their dollars to continue to go with the Y, great. If they want their dollars to stay with the IWC, then it's the direction they would need to go. I know that this is just a quick summary of Heather's spreadsheet that's miles long of all the steps and actions that she needs to take in the near future. She's been meeting with each director independently on different things, transition of vendors, all that type of thing. But I can bring the council up to date as we proceed. I do want to, the only thing I do really want to caution is that life is extremely busy right now in the transition. We really do want a period of new normal to establish where we can have work out the bugs, get all the transition before we start doing a lot of changes. Because I know that there's a lot of excitement coming from the community from all sides, from the Simpson and the school district and internal to the YMCA from their own staff and external from Parks and Rec staff and then community members. Everybody wants to see a lot of change and a lot of excitement about how we can move forward. But we have to ease into the pool and recognize that we do need to maintain revenue over expenditures and make that transition very thoughtful and as we move forward.
Part of the communications, I think, obviously.
What's that?
It's part of the communications with all the members and the community as well is it's a transition period and there will be, we're excited, but let's make sure we slow grow.
Some of the changes and the ideas are really exciting and intriguing, but at the same time, would dramatically change in how we would operate the facility. We need to have continuity. Anything else on the why?
And since you kind of talked about communications a lot, have we advertised the communications director position yet for the city?
Sure haven't. July 1st is the first day we would be able to fund it. So we are anticipating getting the job description together now, advertising in June, so that we can bring somebody on in July. And this person's going to be, well,
Absolutely there. All
List
right.
gets longer.
Yeah,
anything else anyone wants to talk about in the why?
great. Thank you
Yeah,
for all
good
your hard
job.
work.
Okay.
Everybody.
Heather is really, she's just, the steering committee, your head just spins when you listen to her talk about all the things that she has to, I mean, obviously everybody's working, but she's doing a great.
He is doing a fantastic job.
Great. Awesome.
Item number 3, which is the public safety building bond referendum discussion.
Okay, so Councilmember Richardson talked to me and the other members who are participating in the Des Moines Metro Partnership trip to Washington, DC about pros and the cons of moving forward with the ballot initiative for the public safety building in 23 or 24, or how it moves forward with regard to the legislative changes. So the state legislature made a change so that municipal elections for bond referendums are no longer on a September or March ballot, have to be on a November ballot. And I truly understand why they wanted to do that, because they wanted more community support and more voices heard, and people tend to come out to November elections. Fortunate, there's always the law of unintended consequences. The law of unintended consequences is twofold. One, it can delay projects, but the bigger issue in my mind is that oftentimes in November, your project is at about a 20% design with renderings and cost estimates and everything else. And your 80% design is going to be taking place over the winter months. That means your letting is taking place in the spring. And if you do that letting in the spring, you're going to get less contractors bidding for it. And the rates and the costs are going to be much higher because their work is already lined out for the summer. Yeah, if you wait and do the letting in the fall of the following year, then you're waiting 6 to 9 months before you're doing your letting, and who knows what economic conditions might be at that point. And so the bond referendum that you just passed may or may not be sufficient to meet those needs. So it's a catch-22 situation that we're in. It's the ideal time frame for us to move forward with the new public safety building would be the month of March. Unfortunately, that's not available to us anymore. So having said that, there are a lot of pros and cons to a 2023 versus 2024 ballot. And so I just threw a few up here that I just typed up in the last few minutes. And that is this. And pro of 2023 is that it meets our needs more quickly. We get facilities under construction more quickly, pending the approval of the voters. And we meet the needs of our public safety officials so that they can take care of our community. It's also a non-presidential year, so that's makes it on a municipal election year. But the cons are many on the 2023. First, our staff availability right now is extremely constrained. We are actively working to transition near double the size of our staff. We're bringing on a new communications director who's going to be busy with that effort, let alone a new effort to share the story of the needs of the public safety building. We do not yet have a design. We do not yet have cost estimates. So because we don't yet have a contractor. And of course, our residents have recently had the sting of the new assessment increases. So that's going to be in their minds right now. The school district bond, of course, just passed. Something else that they're going to be having in their minds right now. And the most concerning to me is that if this community is to be united behind a project that's truly needed in our community to meet the needs of our public safety officials, we need to have a council that's united. And I love the fact that you guys are getting along so well and you're united and you're really behind this. But the best way to become divided is to make this the pivoting issue on a ballot. So people will run either for or against this project as an election issue. And so that can create a divide in the community. And if it's also the exact same time that you need the approval for the bond referendum, and it has to be at a 60% approval rating, when candidates are likely to vote, swing the community one way or another by a few votes, likelihood of it passing is, in my mind, more diminished. But the biggest issue also on top of all that is that in order for us to put it on the ballot and to communicate properly with the residents, we're in a position right now where it's not on the ballot. So we can communicate, we can educate, we can share, we can create grassroots, we can put forth a lot of information. But as soon as it's on a ballot, we are constrained and all we can do is educate and cons, and we have to take a neutral position as staff. And so you handcuff the staff at the exact same time when we're trying to grow base that we need to get the support. Pros for 2024 is time. We have the time to prepare, communicate, educate, engage, grow grassroots engagement. And it's also a non-municipal year. So it's yes, it might get lost in the election. That's what I have as a con. It could get lost in the presidential election, but it's also independent. And the president's not running or not running based on our need for a public safety building. And but of course, a big, huge con is the delay that this has on our police and our fire departments and our city staff in general. I'm not encouraged by, but I think after talking to our department directors this morning, we'd rather see it go out of the gate successfully and win than and because we've truly educated and brought the public with us than to fail prematurely. Another thing that I didn't put on here, but if you do put it on 2023, also put it on 2024 if it does fail. So with that, I will turn it over to you for your direction. Because we will be happy to do whatever you tell us.
In our discussions at the partnership, we treated, well, I won't treat the partnership chaos that we into, which was, as you well know, John, everybody's been there. It's not stop, but I know Ben talked to contractors that do CMR at risk, CM at risk, and I did as well, and I did as well too. And we kept getting the question, well, when are you doing this? And we just kind of, Ron and I talked a little bit too, that we really hadn't made a decision when we're gonna do it and what we're gonna do exactly. And so maybe that's where we need to be right now, is kind of have that discussion about what year do we do it, and do we do one project, do we do two bond issues? And I think at the last meeting, we talked about CM at risk. Thought we were kind of all on board with that, maybe not. Just kind of want to nail that down too, I think. And the other thing that was mentioned when we did talk to the contractors was that if you go and hire your architectural team and keep your team, that they do 30% or 20% programs. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this is what you guys heard as well, but I heard that sometimes it's better to do your CM and work through that process and let them come in early in that process and help with that 30%, because they can provide additional savings oftentimes in that pre 30%. So that's part of the, somewhere in the equation too, that we probably need to discuss down the road, not necessarily tonight, but I think we need to figure out when we're doing this and just have a discussion about, you know, is it one bond issue, is it two, when year are we doing it? That side, because we kind of went around the edges many times since that one meeting in February or March. And so we really need to kind of figure this out, I think.
I've talked to people in Missouri who have used the CMAR process before and absolutely love it and wouldn't go any other way. And I talked to the young man who worked for Turner Construction, and they do a lot of out-of-state projects. And he says it's rare almost to find people who don't use the CMAR process anymore. And so I'm kind of in favor of going down that route. Gosh, have you guys used CMAR quite a bit in the come and go stuff?
We don't, but I mean, I'm very familiar with it. I appreciate all the contract discussion, I guess. I'm just still wrapping my head around if it's 2023 or 2024. To me, it just seems like we just went through a little bit of a nightmare on the square. The county did. The city gets blamed for a lot by doing a rushed project without a lot of details and incomplete design. Better than coin flip's chance of cost being off. And my fear would be just doing the exact same thing in 2023, right? And being pretty tone deaf to the citizens of just going right after it. And so if you make that decision first, you're gonna do 2023 or 2024, then probably a little more time to potentially suss out some of the, the local contractors that you'd be looking at and the different contract type design firms and stuff like that. You have more time than to dive into some of that stuff. I mean, I think the CMR is great, but so don't exactly know what we're doing yet and the timing with which we're doing it. So
I think Josh hit on something too about just specifically the county project. Yes, it's ours, right? It doesn't matter whose property it is. Everybody thinks it's us. And I think that we're really building a lot of trust here. We're doing things in the right way. And I think if we come out with this prepared, plans, models that people can see, and then we do it right and we do it within budget, that's going to go a long way. So I would love to do it this year in 23. Don't know. I don't think it's the right time. But
Well, that's why we're having the discussion, right?
yeah, I mean,
it can be.
I'm late to the game on some of this stuff, but I think seeing where our line is at, chances of a full architect getting anything reasonably caught up and ready to go is pretty slim to none in my experience with architects and engineers.
To be honest with you, I think wise, and I said this when we had the gentleman from
Master Builder.
Master Builders come. It's almost more important to get your my opinion, because they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be able to help you more because they're actually building it. Architects work with a lot of them. Experience is they don't build anything. So I think you're much better off to get your construction manager on board first. So.
Well, and that's
Or early anyway. So I think to me, that's.
That was one of the things that again, I don't know what you guys gentlemen here. But I talked to 3 construction teams that have done construction management at risk. 2 of them are currently doing projects in the state of Iowa right now under CM at risk. One of them's Des Moines Airport, and another contractor's working on a public facility project right now, currently at CM at risk in Dallas County. So it is it's happening. But I tend to agree with you. I think 24 is probably, we just never really talked about it. I think we just need to get it down and decide we're doing 23 or 24.
And I think we'll have the people at the polls next year in 24, right? They're going to come out for a presidential election.
Right.
So I think the thing is, if we do it right, the people are gonna come. It'll be like this school. It'll just be a natural fit and 80% of the community will approve it, like that last bond. And I think you really did. You made another really good point, is this can become an election issue. I think 4 of us sat up here in the exact same spot where this was being talked about. And some of us said we didn't need a new city hall when they were running. That was me. I was wrong. So I make sure that I tell our public safety all the time, but it was an election issue. It's important to admit we're wrong, but this space is inadequate for our public safety. So.
Steve, the only question I have is you say 1 bond versus 2. What do you mean by that?
Well, are we gonna put this public safety building and library on the ballot in 24? Or are we putting 1 issue on the ballot in 24 and then look at the second issue a little later? That's my question.
And to answer that question, I think it would be most appropriate to invite the library board here.
Yes.
To have that discussion, but also if it's a 24, we have plenty of time to consider and to evaluate all of that. I recently presented to the library board and had a very good and frank discussion about the merits of going concurrent or separate. Simply because of the fact that a lot of times people will pick and choose, well, I'll get this one or I'll get this one, but I'm not going to do both or neither. And then you don't hit the 60% on either because you're dividing yourself. And so there is concern with that. But we have time if we go to 2024, we don't.
I think that becomes a discussion, John's, to your point, more importantly, that I think we just decide 23 or 24 tonight. And then we decide, is it, we meet with
Construction manager.
And I agree with John. I think the earlier we bring that construction manager on, the better off we're gonna be. And I think that if we can then decide whether it's gonna be 1 or 2, that makes it easier at that point in time. I think it may be a 2 or 3 step process.
I mean, from what I'm gauging for this conversation is 24, but a couple of you haven't weighed in. So is anyone in favor of 23?
As much as I would like to see it in 23, but I mean, 24 is 18 months away. So I mean, we talked about how it's a big kick down the road, kicking the can down the road. And I mean, we're still kicking it down the road and for another 18 months. And that's just to even get it on the bond. So I understand. I think it's a better idea to probably have renderings that have a better presentation to the taxpayers. It's just a long ways down the road.
It's just not ideal.
Well, and the staff is just overwhelmed with this transition to the wellness center too, or it seems like right now too.
I would like to just interject one thing that's kind of been stuck in my craw for a while, is that we have a library building that it literally is full.
Yeah,
And I don't know that we have 5 years unless we're going to spend a fortune and then turn around and tear it down. And I guess my concern is, as we've gone down this road, is that we really need to be thinking about that, because one way or the other, we're going to spend, I mean, we're already spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on it anyway. Going to tear it down someday. So that's my biggest concern.
and I understand that.
When you talked with the library board and, as you said, you had the frank discussion about the pros and cons. I mean, from my visit to the board, I would think they would hate to see it delayed, but I mean, after your discussion, what was their feeling?
Well, I think it would be most appropriate for them to come and to share that and for us to take time to make it a more thoughtful analysis, but just off the cuff, of course, you know, they're most concerned about making sure that that library is incorporated. It was always envisioned as one project, I think. And so they would very much support it going forward. And if we have the time to communicate well, there is a possibility that we can make them succeed at the same time.
Because to John's point, we're gonna end up spending a lot of money
Right.
that we're just gonna tear down. You know, which would be a total waste.
The biggest disadvantage we have right now is that we keep mandating or lack of mandating the library along because we always have this.
And yeah, in
this
the background,
sense of,
you know.
It's gonna be on the election and whatnot. And so we get to the point where we're not taking care of or wanting to invest dollars into something that would be torn down right away. So you can't live that way forever. You eventually have to.
Make a decision.
We have to buy. I mean,
I guess I would disagree with that comment is we've spent money. We've not ever said we're not gonna spend money on that. My concern is we're gonna have to spend more and more. Because we've always made sure that, I mean, I didn't want to spend the 35,000 or whatever it was on the heating and cooling a couple of years ago because I thought we were hopefully not gonna have to. I mean, so now we're looking at leaks and everything. So my concern is that we're gonna end up spending hundreds of thousands more if we don't get something moving forward.
The nice thing that they are appreciative of is the fact that we have acquired the Samantha Manus property, that we are working on the acquisition of the other parcel that is very much out there because of the nature who owns that property. And so we are taking the steps forward for both projects. But I completely agree that the design that we currently have, though well received, the 9 presentations I've given thus far is cartoons on a drawing board made by your city manager, who's not an architect or.
Sell
We,
yourself a little short.
it's just like Ron said, it's just so frustrating.
it's good for visionary aspect,
It's just frustrating because now we can't do March of 20.
correct? Because that's the,
That was taken off the table.
Right, so that's probably when we would have been ready, which only a few months sooner, but it's still not 18 months down the road, and that's frustrating thing, but there's really nothing we can do about that.
well, and the most concerning thing about the loss of March is the fact that we would design through the summer and have a letting in the fall and would have been kind of the first.
I interrupted you.
No, I just was gonna be clear, Ben, you mentioned earlier, but staff department heads generally, while we all want it sooner, understand we're supportive of it, doing it right for 2024, correct?
Yeah, speak now or
Yes.
speak now or
Whatever you do, just do it as 7 voices as one. That's all I care about.
I think from my perspective, Ben and to staff is that, obviously I think 24 has been decided, so somewhere along the line, kind of lay out tentatively when you'd like to bring the library board in and kind of, so we kind of have an idea, time frame. I'm kind of a planner, so we'd like to have a time frame, maybe a CM, what we're gonna do with that process and whatever the case is. Kind of go-
Sure, and I did appreciate from the Des Moines Metro partnership for the airport project, Kevin.
John, something?
No, Kevin, he spoke.
Oh, yeah, Kevin. Yeah, great. Oh, yeah,
They
they,
indicate that they are more than willing to give us all of their documents when it comes to advertisement for both the contractor and the architects and how they go about it. All their paperwork for the state of Iowa has already been set and can be reused easily.
All right.
good discussion.
Very good discussion. Any discussion regarding the upcoming agenda items from within the regular May 15th, 2023 city council meeting at 7 p.m.? If not, we will take a 5-minute break until 7 p.m. I now call to order the City of Indianola, May 15th, 2023, regular council meeting. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Beach. Here. Parker.
Present.
Lee.
Here.
Richardson.
Present.
Schroeder.
Present.
Ray.
Here.
And Mayor Anderson.
Present. Now move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council? If so, please come forward and state your name. and address. Record. I'm looking at you, Alan. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled? If not, I need a first and second motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. The second.
Second.
And Ben, would you like to?
I just.
Yep, that's what I was gonna have Ben go through a couple things.
What have been already.
It's been a busy few days, and so I'll do my best here to walk us through, but I might bring Jackie a little bit. Some of these really big. So renewable liquor license for Walgreens, the Veterans Memorial Day Parade is coming up on May 29th. The route has been changed. That'll be going on Ashland Avenue, right on Howard Street, right on Salem Avenue, right on First Street, on Fifth Street, right onto Highway 65, 69, and then left into the cemetery. That has been changed to bring the parade route onto 65, 69 so that it could eventually end on the east side of 65, 69, where the memorial is going to be. A presentation will be made at this area. We have a few applications for the industrial park and for the square reconstruction project. And those Councilman Sin had a question on with regard to the change order that was in. That was one that was already previously addressed by the council on the April 17th meeting. So this is simply the pay app that ties back to that previously approved change order. HR Green engineering contract was also on here for the Franklin new sewer replacement project. This is the initial stages of the design for that Franklin Avenue sewer. There were several questions on the contract. It's a fairly standard contract. We will be engaging all of the utilities, including IMU, in the design as this project moves forward. If there's any improvements that they would like to make on the way, we will want to make sure that we take those into consideration as we proceed. It is fairly standard boilerplate language on that agreement. It has been reviewed by our city attorney. Amy Beatty on that. And Richardson, is there anything specifically?
No, I raised some questions on different sections of the contract, 816, 819, 820, 821, 825. My only concern about overall and change orders and everything else, as we well know, you folks all know that. So is that we're getting the best design, engineering, and architectural services. All this is architectural, but services from contractors, engineers, architects that we can. And I just want to make sure our contracts are also in our favor too, to a certain extent, so that we don't cost the taxpayers money. Questions have all been answered, so I appreciate that from staff. So thank you.
Moving on, we have application 10 for the Boston Avenue project, as well as the purchase of a city vehicle for the police department. It's just suspension of enforcement of the sale and consumption of alcohol at the city parks during the disc golf tournament at Pickard Park on June 23rd through 25th. contracts for the fire protection and emergency response of Lincoln Township. And I think that covers the majority of the major items. Is there any questions that the council had on any other item?
Procedure is all. If the property, if the city was gonna acquire.
About that, is that just to speed things along?
And there are slivers of property for a right of way.
Allows us not to have to go out for an appraisal on 25, did you say 25?
No, I read that.
25.
I read that, but then I wondered with, cause like the project that we're talking about, to me, it seemed low. Seemed like the $15,000 sale should be just a little bit higher. So then I wondered if an appraisal should have been done, but then if it delays it.
Yes.
Just one quick question back up on the Chevy Tahoe. That actually was because we couldn't get the original priced vehicle. Is that right? Or the original vehicle was, is that what the situation was?
We couldn't get Fords.
Okay.
Found Chevy's.
Okay. Go ahead.
Any other questions? Becky?
Chambers, Becker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Fodor.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Peach.
Aye. Okay, moving on, the council report. Steve, I think has an update, a legislative update, as well as anyone on the DC trip want to give us some updates on that.
I gave you a copy. I received this from Tom Cope. He is the chair of the MPO. I talked to Tom at the partnership trip and asked him to give me some information on what ended up is way out there. Their meeting was that I flew out on Tuesday and I wasn't able to sit in on the meeting. And this is what Tom sent me, is what you have in front of you from the House Republican caucus staff, is their analysis of the thing. And I think there's some things there that you really probably ought to take notice in. Division 2, if you look at that, city property taxes and budgets, use everything into a new levy, including all of the things. And I'm not sure exactly what all it takes are levies. And that's a question Andy can answer maybe in the future, but takes everything, pretty much everything of our levies and puts them into one big levy and gives you that total number, which I think is what, 1383 right now or something like that. And then that's your new combined levy. And then that is further, there are some things that are exempted from there, but that's also further reduced. If you read the next section there, that if your taxable value grows more than 6%, it's reduced by 3%. So you're only going to get 3% raise essentially. And if you're in a 3.3 to 5.99, you get only 2%. So there's some things in there that I think really hurt. I know Andy did a recalculation on that, and I don't know if that got out to everybody, but it's significant numbers in the future. One other thing I think you probably ought to take note of, two other things, well, a couple other things. Levy recalculation will occur for the 25-28 budgets, and after 28, there's a sunset, if I'm not mistaken, on divisions 1 and 2, which you saw above. Division 5 is a home tax credit, and there's a new 65 and over exemption. It's $3,250 in 2024, and then 2025 that jumps to $6,500. That used to be partially reimbursed by the state. That's not going to be done any longer. You look at Division 6, which is the military property tax credit. That also increases that, becomes a $4,000 state dollar exemption, and eliminates the state funding, which was a backfill on our part. It eliminates that as well. So there are some significant things that we'll have to deal with in the budget year 25, which going to be our next budget cycle, and so we're going to have to be careful with that. Ron, you want to say anything about the DC trip while you're?
Yeah, I can add some few pointers here. First of all, we got to the airport at 5:30. All of us except for Charlie, because he's seasoned and knew that you don't need to show up at 5:30 in the morning. So I think he was playing a prank on us there. So we flew into Washington, straight to the hotel, had a luncheon. We had Senator Joe Manchin spoke to us for the opening remarks. As far as who was there, it was Steve, myself, Ben, and Charlie from the city. We had the Warren County Economic Development Office that was also represented in the Norwalk chamber as well. So
We did have Clint Welling from.
Welling was there.
From True Bank, but wasn't he representing?
Warren County Economic.
Economic Development, so.
He's on their board.
Later that afternoon, we had a meeting in Senator Grassley's office. Senator Grassley wasn't able to attend, but we spoke to some of his staffers. They were speaking to other cities all day long, so they're a little backed up. We got roughly 15 minutes in with the staffers and was talking about some of the bullet points that we had taken along with this. The Highway 5 corridor, affordable housing, childcare. I remember what the fourth one was. So that took up a lot of the day there on Wednesday. On Thursday, we had the congressional delegation breakfast. We had our Iowa representatives there. We had Senator Grassley and Ernst, and then Representatives Miller, Meeks, Henson, and Nunn. They each spoke for a little while and took some answered some questions. Then attended the World Food Prize Laureate announcement. That was quite the event. We had former Governor Branstad and Vilsack also spoke. We had Secretary of State Anthony Blinken spoke as well. After that, we had a meeting in Ernst's office. We actually did have a face-to-face with
really?
Senator Ernst, so.
Because she kind of blew us off last year, so that's
Yeah,
great.
maybe she felt obligated to meet with us this time, so.
I would add to that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all 8 of us that were there from Warren County felt like she really did listen. She actively engaged us. She asked us questions about some of the things we were doing. Clint brought up a good idea about something that he was kind of interested in, and so I felt like that was the best meeting that we had.
I would agree. Yeah. Later that day, we had basically a 3-minute conversation with Miller Meeks. She was in the middle of voting for the immigration bill, I believe is what it was, but she came out of the House chambers and took some pictures with us, basically what it was. But we handed her a sheet with our talking points, and she does have an office here in town that when she's in town, we can meet with her. But it was a good time to get some, at least some face-to-face with them. I think the main thing I took away, it was a great time to collaborate, not only with other communities, but other business leaders as well. So all in all, I thought it was a really, really great trip. I learned a lot. So I would, I did walk a lot. I would recommend anyone who hasn't been on that trip that you should attend it next year. So.
Were you able to get, were they allowed back in the Capitol again?
Yes.
Did they have the dinner in the two, prior years I went, when they shut down the Capitol last few years, we didn't have it last year, but they did the, representatives breakfast at the Capitol they did it in the rooms where they do the hearing rooms.
Yeah.
Where they had all those historical hearings of the Red Scare as well as the stuff that
One of the Senate
currently a member of the commune. I mean, it was pretty interesting to sit in that room thinking a lot of history is taking place in this.
We basically we did get the tour, but it was the same tour that everybody pretty much gets that goes to the Capitol today. It's not the same tour they used to get either, so. But it's still good, and I think, as you well know, John, as you've gone, it's the talking with so many different people and collaborating with and learning what other cities are doing and what other businesses are doing, and our opportunities to talk to contractors as well as architectural teams, everything else was really good. So I thought that was a great option.
All right, Ben, anything?
Well, as far as the partnership aspect is concerned, if there's anything that I really drew from it, it's that Warren County really needs to work together. Presenting to I was going to save this for my report, but presenting to the county supervisors on the 23rd. And I'd like to invite the mayor and the mayors of Carlisle and Norwalk to attend as well, because we have so much more that unites us than divides us. If the county supervisors are truly concerned about providing services to the outlying county areas through roads or police or public safety, whatever it might be. Healthy Norwalk, healthy Carlisle, and a healthy Mineola are the ways to do that. And anything they can do to help support creating economic vitality in those communities, and provide them the resources that they need to do great work. And so when I saw Michael Foods doubling their production in Norwalk, the first thing I did is rifle off a congratulation note to my counterpart Luke over in Norwalk, because what's good for them is good for the county and it's good for us. We need to get over this mentality that we should be divided or competing and only talk positively about each other. I think if there's anything I learned about the partnership is how well each of the metro communities interact with each other. And they did so under the guidance of Jay Byers. And I'm so excited to see Jay Byers being selected as the new Simpson College president. I think he's going to do an exceptional job. Not only does he bring the traditional and the knowledge and the root knowledge as a student, teacher, and trustee member for our community, but he brings the breadth of economic development knowledge through the Metro partnership as well. And I'm just thrilled at their choice, and I see nothing but positivity for our community and our county going.
Yeah, I would probably see somebody from Simpson, if not Jay, going next year as well, and I think they should. And that Warren, we kind of all talked about this, that, Warren County supervisors need to have a representation. And IMU, because of the fact that I sat in on a transportation infrastructure meeting on Friday morning. And in that meeting, they were talking about USDA grants as well as other federal grants. And there may be some things that we can tie in because we are sometimes considered, even though we're metro, but sometimes under USD guidelines, we're considered rural. And so those kinds of things, there can be some funding available for IMU and for some of these other programs as well. And I think in the supervisors for certain could tap into some of that. So I really would encourage, and I know, John, you're in the same boat too. You encourage these people to all go and send a representative because I think it's so beneficial.
Right. Well, thank you, Solomon, for taking that trip. Moving on to item 7, mayor's report. Got a little bit of a list here, so I'm going to mark some things up. On Friday, we had our employee recognition banquet and at the country club. And I'd like to say thank you to the employee engagement committee. Great time had by everybody. We've discovered there's some competitiveness in bingo, specifically Steve likes to beat me. But we had a lot of fun, and again, great event that they put on. Thank you for doing that. This Wednesday, we will be celebrating the Mayor's Youth Council at Savor the Rise, as well as celebrating Becky with her upcoming retirement. You mentioned Jay, so congratulations to Jay. There is an introduction of the new president, Jay Byers, on Wednesday, May 17th at 1:30. Helba Hall in the Kent Student Center. I'll be planning on going. He'll be taking over in the 2023-2024 school year. So would that be July 1st one? I don't know how they're run. Tomorrow, We Lift is hosting a series called Mental Health in the Workplace, and that is from 8 a.m. to 11:30 at Fellowship Church. Let's see, Steve, Gwen, Ben, and I will be meeting with Joe Moody and the American Legion, go over our final details for next week. Or for Memorial Day's parade, there will be an unveiling of the Junior Edwards statue at the end of the parade. Congratulations to our fire department. They received 2 grants through the Warren County Phillips Partnership grants, $5,000 for a rescue boat and a little bit over $2,500 for a stair chair. I think I got everything. It's just written all over here. That's all I have, but I do have another topic, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to maybe talk about it, but just a little bit of discussion and like code enforcement, grass clippings being pushed into the street, just some education that became a big topic this weekend online. Healthy and good topic, but would you prefer we just have that conversation now, or do you want to wait till your section? I mean, it's just kind of a discussion of what we want to do in regards to it.
What do you prefer? No, you brought it up.
All right, so shouldn't take very long, but there we're seeing lots of people, they push their grass clippings into the street. And so we need you to remember as responsible homeowners, and it's a safety issue as well as it puts a burden on our stormwater drains and the runoff. The DNR actually does have the authority to cite the city and the homeowners, what I've learned over the last weekend, if we continue to pollute these stormwater drains. And then code enforcement. I've had a number of individuals who have brought up the topic of code enforcement in regards to grass. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different in the last few days if you had to mow because it's been so wet here. But what is, Charlie, I apologize for calling on you. What is the grass requirement, 8 inches?
8 inches on residential properties, yeah, and it's a little bit different for undeveloped properties depending on what you're looking at, but yeah, if you have a house.
So I guess I don't know. Really, I'm kind of bringing it up for public awareness as well. And then in regards to how we respond to that. And then the policy, if somebody wants to report, hopefully we're just gonna go over and help our neighbors and maybe offer to mow their grass and then blow all their grass clippings back in to their yard. But if Charlie, you want to walk through real quick what the process is to.
Yeah, so when we get complaints on tall grass and weeds, we'll go out there, confirm it. Get a complaint confirmed, 8 inches is not a lot, but it gets confirmed pretty fast. We send out letters giving them 7 days from the date that we send it out. So if we send them out today, we give them till next Monday, essentially, to have that mowed. That was at direction of legal counsel for many reasons. When we send stuff first class mail, especially in Indianola, sometimes it takes 4 to 5 days just to get to the homeowner. So we need to make sure that we're conscious of that. On that 7th day, then the due date, we will go out there again, if it has been mowed or not. If it has not been mowed, we have a abatement contractor that we have lined up to do abatements twice a week in Indianola, one on Monday, one on Thursday. So if it is not, we will put it on the schedule for the next time that abatement contractor comes through to mow. We then send the bill to the property owner. If the property owner does not pay the bill, then we bring the bill to council to assess on property taxes. And then we hope that it eventually gets paid through the property tax process. So in a nutshell, that is our process when it comes to code enforcement, all grass and weeds.
Sure.
Yeah. On the topic of communication, people may be confused because the city of Des Moines has no mow May as a special provision within their code that is not within our code.
I think some of these are maybe no mow May, and some of these are habitual offenders year after year. So I did a drive down, and now it was late last night when I got back into town, but I did do a drive down our highway properties. And so we just have to remember that, you know, this is what people see when they come into our community, and we want to make sure that it's looking nice. The other thing that was brought up, and I'm not saying this is happening, it was just brought up. So I said we would make sure that we talk to our contractor, is that several of the city properties, Parks and Rec building, Oats Park, those are the two mentioned, that the person that we contract with does not clear the grass out of the road. So I said I would make sure that we brought that to staff's attention, and then we would make sure it's an easy fix that we can do with our contractor. So I'm sure it's not done intentionally. Sometimes we forget. So perfect. Thanks, Charlie. That's all I have. I mean, I don't know if that's something we want to take on in a study session and talk more about code enforcement, but got it. And it is hard. It is hard with our neighbors. And so let's just go mow people's lawns first, or ask first so we don't get trespassing. Right, that's all I have. Moving on, Charlotte's proclamation, we will read on a separate day when our family can all be in attendance. But we have a proclamation declaring May 2023 as Building Safety Month in Indianola. I'll read that real quickly. Whereas our city is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in the everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of village guardians, building safety and fire protection officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year round to ensure that the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the building where we live. And whereas the modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildlife fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas the International Code Council sponsors Building Safety Month to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of the safe and sustainable and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observation of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and the economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Stephanie Erickson, Mayor of the City of Indianola, Iowa, do hereby proclaim this month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage all citizens to join as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. A lot to read, so now we'll move on into public consideration, or I don't have to talk so much. We have the South K Street paving project. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving an engagement agreement with Eilers and Cooper. Second.
Second.
Thank you. And discussion.
Probably the only thing to discuss, and maybe or David or AP, you want to talk to this one, not, but there is certain prerequisites that need to be followed in order for us to move forward with project, and it does slightly alter the timeline that I've shared previously with the council. So
Yeah, I guess this is the next step in the process, and it needed this to be done in a resolution before they do the work to get ready for the next phase, which is the preliminary assessment, the preliminary resolution with this before the resolution of necessity. So it kind of pushed back our public meeting a little bit. We have to have three sequential city council meetings to get that to work. We had planned on trying to have a public information meeting so that we can start the right-of-way process. So we're doing two things. We're doing the assessment process. We're also doing kind of the project process where we have to buy right away for the project that goes in parallel. We want to make sure that we weren't engaging with property owners and they don't know what the assessments are. We want them to have all the information available to start that process. So it kind of put our public information meeting back a couple of weeks. So it'll be after the June 16th council meeting, that public information meeting. And that's a public information meeting and not a hearing, so we don't have to do the publishing 4 and 20 day. We don't have that timing. We'll mail letter on the project, so it'll be open house setting. So it kind of jiggled our schedule a little bit, but it's very important.
Dave, in regards to that, your presentation that you gave us last time, I know a couple of us have asked for that. We haven't seen that yet. Could we get that sent to us? Because I know specifically there was a timeline in there. So when you talk about a different timeline, I really don't know what the change in that timeline is. So if we were gonna say in the difference of this, I mean, we're just talking a few weeks of a difference. or-
Weeks. I said, I think in the presentation it said May and it'll be June.
Okay. Perfect. And do you have that AP that you could send? I know the couple council members wanted that as well too. If you want to send it out to everyone, that would be perfect. And I know some homeowners have asked for that too, so.
Just a clarification, preliminary assessments. Kind of terminology here, I guess is what I want to talk about. Preliminary assessments that go out will be the maximum number that they can achieve. Is that correct?
Correct. That'll be the highest.
Right. And generally, if things go properly, hopefully then things are less than that, but that should be the preliminary is the max.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. On the last assessment project that we worked on, I think the final assessments came in about 12% less.
So that will be the maximum. They know that they may be responsible for, and hopefully we do things correctly. Okay, just want to make sure, because sometimes when people hear preliminary, they think, well, it's going to be more money down the road. So let's just make clear of that.
Steve, in regards to that model, first time I know you came up here, you talked about that we can't assess them more than, I believe, 20% of their property.
25% of the value, council valuation.
But what if we get into a situation where, because then I told a different way, but that doesn't matter how I was told a different way. What matters is what you told us. So this is a $4 million project, but we've got, let's say, $1 million property on there. We could assess them up to 25%, and then that would be the $1 million. So
That's just a test. And some of the, it isn't, you don't assess all the way up to the value of 25% of the value of the property. It's really about the benefits that those property owners receive.
So for instance, this is actually a pretty easy one, is the apartments on the corner. They were previously assessed at $4 million.
Their value. Okay.
Yeah, value. So they're 8 million today. That was
Right.
talk about someone who got a really big hit. That's a big hit. So if we were to do 25% of that property, now I know this is not how you're doing it
I
all.
don't think the assessment for that property will approach 25% of that value.
Okay.
That's
That
not.
would be $2 million. And if the project's only 4, I mean, okay, thank you.
So really, Dave, really what we're doing, what's percentage of the total project will assessments handle?
Better question.
So that's the math we owe you for the June 6th council meeting. So that, not to kick the can down the road.
So roughly so if it's 70, let's use an example. Let's say 70% of the project is other monies and 30% is assessments. Okay, let's just use that as a number for right now. So really what we're talking about is that the homeowners are going to be, that are going to be assessed, are going to be responsible for 30% of that particular project. I know that's high, and that's not probably what's going to happen. But that's where we're at, right? So when we talk about $1 million home, you're only going to talk about whatever their percentage of that particular project in the entire length of the project, right? So it's not a situation where you're talking about, okay, they're assessed at $4 million or $1 million, and they're going to pay $225,000 or whatever. That's not going to happen.
Correct. We don't back into that
Right.
assessment.
Right. So it's only a portion of what that total assessment for apportionment is. So it's a portion of a portion, so to speak, whatever their frontage is on that particular property, or if they're within 300 feet of that property, so, or the roadway. So we got to kind of keep that in mind. It's very complicated and it's hard to explain to folks. I mean,
You
absolutely.
asked about much better way of
Yeah.
what I was trying to.
So it's really hard, and I had a long conversation via email with one of the residents over there, and it's hard to understand all of that, but at the same time, I'm thinking that once we get those numbers and we have that public meeting, people can come to that and they can see what they've got.
Yep, that's
Have a
fine.
date, you have a date for that meeting,
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
but it's after June 16th.
It'll be after that.
Will those residents have that letter that has the preliminary number on it before or after the public meeting?
Exactly.
So they'll have a letter inviting them to the meeting, and then because it's a public process, you'll publish the schedule assessment. So they'll know what the council valuation for their property is and what the trial assessment.
How many days? I'm just trying to think of preparing for that meeting. So it'd probably be best to do that meeting before July 1st. Lots of people, take off in July. So, but if we're not gonna get the numbers until a little bit late.
Given them the opportunity to review the information and to get the notification.
So we're probably looking at July and for that.
Maybe the last week of June before that July would be my hope.
Now, the public meeting is not a neighborhood meeting. It's a public meeting for the entire public, or is it?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a public information meeting. Anybody can come, but the people affected by the project will be mailed. we'll give them a mail notification. We'll also publish a notification, but it's not a hearing, so it's.
So, like a normal neighborhood meeting. Okay, thank you.
Dave,
You bet.
any other discussion?
What's that?
All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Ray. Beach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Bobby.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Motion passed 6-0. Moving on to new business, the Indianola Wellness Campus. Need a first and second motion on the first consideration of an ordinance amending the city code of the city of Indianola, Iowa, by adding a chapter establishing an Indianola Wellness Campus Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Need more discussion on this? I kind of highlighted it earlier. Seeing none, Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Bobby.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Moving on, I need a first and second motion on the resolution authorizing the agreement Reclick Solutions LLC for software services at the Indianola Wellness Campus.
Make a motion for the resolution authorizing agreement for 7 years with the Reclick, whatever it is, Solutions LLC for software services at the Indianola Wellness Campus.
Is there? Thank you. Any more discussion? All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
And passed authorizing 7 years. Moving on, I need a first and second motion, resolution approving a hold harness agreement between the city of Indianola and Warren County, Iowa regarding sprinkler protective covers.
So moved.
Second.
Hello, chief.
Questions?
Questions?
But the prisoners quit beating your sprinkler heads off, huh?
That's when you design to have the best word for equipment. Curious as to why these engineers, the architects would have realized that, you know, what can and can't go into a cell, but.
We weren't involved.
Oh, I know that. but just-
We would not have had that problem.
They clearly never watched Shawshank, so.
Essentially, what does this mean, I guess?
So what we're
Layman's
doing,
terms.
yeah, we're authorizing them to design a cover. Eliminate that issue with them knocking the sprinkler head, activating the system. It benefit for us, hurt the city, and it also benefits.
The county.
Yes.
It also allows you to get the coverage you need then too. is it?
Yes, yes.
I'm assuming there's been a situation where we've been called over there because.
I know of 7.
Yeah, we need some help with that.
Absolutely.
Is there a financial impact for us providing that cover or the county having to provide?
That's all there on there.
7 times it took us to figure that out.
Not
Not
us.
us.
No, I'm saying us as in what I mean.
Are those the,
Ben said we're supposed to be talking as one now. We're all one, so
That's right.
one's got it.
are those the 13, I'm trying to remember the prescriptive, I'm having a brain glitch here, the high pressures. What is it, the FS13 or the sprinklers heads, or the special sprinkler heads? Or are these just regular sprinkler heads?
Regular sprinkler heads.
You have to tell me, I can't remember. I'm trying to-
No, they're not. Design.
At least he would start throwing out sprinkler head and model no.
Yeah.
I know. That's really good. All right. Okay. Thank you, chief. Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder.
Aye.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Bobby.
Aye.
Richardson.
I
Moving.
remember what the sprinkler head numbers are. That's my problem. I just lost it.
Much brain. now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Moving on, I need a first and second motion on a resolution authorizing the city of Indianola, Iowa to submit sites to the regional joint application for funding from the Federal Highway Administration Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discussion Grant Program for sites at 11 North B Street, West Square Parking Lot, and 106 West First Avenue, South Square Parking Lot. To the Des Moines Area Metro Planning Organization, MPO, for inclusion and further approving the application which obligates the city of Indianola to matching funds for at least 20% for the construction of said project if the funding is granted.
So moved.
That was a long one. Thank you. A second?
Second.
I'll just wait till the PowerPoint gets up here, but I will apologize because this is my item, as was the proclamation that you read, so sorry for testing you.
A lot of reading.
But I did not write any of it, I just copy and pasted.
Charlie, you should take the credit.
I've never. Okay, so may or may not be aware, but as part of the downtown reconstruction project on the alleys, specifically in the west and the south parking lot, IMU has been working to install conduit underground for the possibility of adding EV charging stations in those parking lots in the future. So again, we're just putting the conduit in for now, and in hopes that we could at some point get some grant funding to purchase these well. To our pleasure, the MPO is working with all cities in the Des Moines metro area to put together a joint application. Reason for this, there's 700 million in available funding, and if you want to apply, you have to have a minimum of 500,000 per application. We, the city of Indianola, can never hit that number. I don't think any one city within the metro could hit that number. So again, going at it jointly is a great benefit. I know in the application packet, we pointed out that the deadline was May 30th. They did just last week extend that deadline to June 13th. So I wanted to make sure that was known. But again, the IMU is installing the conduit. They have transformers also on order right now. Transformer lead times are over a year at this point, probably even close to 2 years. So I know they've gotten that order. But anyways, the amount of investment through IMU is about 15,000 per parking lot. We ran numbers really quick, honestly, just looking on Google to figure out kind of what these charging stations would cost. And I think total costs, you're looking at about $60,000 to $80,000 per parking lot. This application does require a 20% match. That 20% match would be in that 12 to 16,000 range. And again, we're looking to probably have IMU invest $15,000 per parking lot. So IMU as an entity probably has hit that 20%, but whatever we need to do to make it up, if those do become a little bit more expensive, obviously we'd come to council for more direction at that point. But again, the resolution is just to authorize the city to jump into this joint grant application with the MPO for the charging station. So if there's any other questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Guess a little more about it. I get what they are. Is that something that people pay for? They hook up? Is it free electricity?
Decisions that we need to make in the future. Yeah, there's options, currently and for events on the square, we are not charging for the electricity on those. But I think on this, it's probably customary to do that. I know I was looking around on the joint application. It's a mapping tool that they have, and the few communities that have them existing are charging for them. So
Yeah, okay. Because very few people have them, and I struggling a little bit with the fact that how many what the population in our community is, but I'm guessing probably less than 1% own an EV, and I guess I mentioned earlier, we're putting infrastructure in, and I get that part of it, but I still.
On the charger that you get, it's all credit card or app payment on all of them. And so now they have to be universal, or it used to be the big decision of Tesla or everybody else, but anybody can use. You may set it up. How many spaces are you going to do in each parking lot?
there's 4 stations. They have capability of putting 4 stations in each parking lot. So 2 vehicle or 2 parking spaces per station. So it'd be 8 spaces per parking lot that we could go up to.
Then my next question is can anybody park in those spots? They're not charging. Again, we're back to a very small portion of the people, and we already have limited spots as is, painting it up even.
Yeah, and again, it's full capability. We could go in and do 1 station per parking lot for now and add them in as we keep going. We don't have to do all 8 spaces per parking lot all at once, but yeah, again, those are all decisions I think that need to be made in the future as policy and regulations on those.
One of the discussions in that Transportation Infrastructure Committee or breakout session on Friday morning that I attended was this very issue about the charging stations and this grant application. And it did come down to discussion about parking or paying or non-paying. And I think most of the communities are looking at a paying option. The real question too, though, is the grid system and how we manage to provide enough electricity that can charge those in a fairly timely manner. And that's a system that is obviously taxed in a lot of ways right now, not necessarily through IMU, but just overall in the country. Interesting thing that came out of that discussion, John, was that that if people are planning, part of it too was a discussion about people actually plan their trips based on where these things are, and if they can find a place, it becomes somewhat of an economic development tool for those folks that have those. There's not a lot of things south of Des Moines as you move towards I-35 and things, and that was part of the discussion with some folks as well. But I'm not saying it's going to be an economic development tool, but I think it does provide some access for folks that might have that opportunity with an EV vehicle, but also the parking spaces are important. So we got to figure that all in. It's got to be part of it. I think the important part is we're part of the match or part of the grant, and then we can decide how.
How long do we know if the grant's approved or not?
I don't know what the timeline is on that, honestly.
So I guess I guess where I'm headed, Charlie, is I have to be an Andy question. We probably didn't factor this in for the current fiscal year. Something that I guess, hold on. Where's the money coming from? I guess.
Yeah, and again, with that 20% match, we think that the money that IMU has already invested in for the infrastructure underground is going to meet that 20% match.
So it's not IMU 20%, us 20%. It's just overall for the city.
Kind already is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's partnering with IMU on this project. So it's really, again, it's their infrastructure that they've been putting in the ground as part of the project. So it's just working to get that grant now to bring it forward. And again, when I talk about that, we're talking 15,000 per parking lot that they have probably invested in it. That's 60 to 80,000. That is if we put in 4 stations per parking lot. Again, I think that's something we need to evaluate and figure out if we want to do all of them now, once we have this grant funding available, or if we maybe do 1 or 2 stations per parking lot for now, see what the usage is and possibly go more in the future. But we've got that 20% match sitting on the table right now to go full on. So things we just need to figure out, I think, in the future. But yeah, and I apologize. If we could have brought this to the next meeting at first with that May 30th deadline. This was kind of the last time to talk about it with council. We knew the grant was there, but then the MPO sent out something last week. So we kind of had to move fast to bring this to council.
Any other questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder, Rabe,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Richardson.
Item number 4, I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a plat of survey for Chad Daniels on behalf of Steve Henry for property addressed at 9393 143rd Avenue.
Moved.
Thank you. Second. You, and discussion.
Quick one on this one, the property does contain a single family dwelling with multiple accessory structures. The proposed split would create a 2.29 acre parcel, which would contain the single family dwelling. The proposed split is for purpose of sale. Really quick, this is a snippet of the survey. Went through all that stuff that we just went over. The map here, first on the right, will show where that property is at. You can see there where that single family dwelling and accessory building is up there on the northwest corner. And if you look at the map on the left, that's our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan, even though this isn't a growth area, it does show it as agriculture. It's just right on the edge of that community mixed use that extends for about a half a mile up from the industrial park area in Hillcrest Avenue. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval at their last meeting, and we have to answer any questions on this one.
Have we talked to Steve Henry at all? Because I thought the county had a minimum of 3 acres for these parcels.
Yeah, that I don't.
I know that's what they were requiring, like Somerset. So, I mean, not that that's going to hold us up, but if we can be forefront with them so they don't run into that issue on the county side, because I think that's what they've run into. If it's only 2.3, you said?
2.29.
2.29.
Used to be 2 acres. I never really changed to 3.
They changed it in regards to Harvest Academy. So. Money issue. All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Rabe,
Aye.
Beach. Aye. Parker,
Aye.
Yes, other business, the manager's report, anybody reads?
Thank you. I covered a couple of the things earlier under report. I did want to bring up a few things though. First, question for the council. We have our first meeting of the new fiscal year is scheduled for July 3rd, Monday, the 4th being a holiday. We weren't sure if we were going to get a full quorum of people. A lot of people are out of town. The question really became, should we have a meeting on July 3rd? Should we wait till July 5th? Or should we take the meeting that you have at the very end of the fiscal year where you're doing your fund transfer reconciliations and all that type of thing, which could and make that a regular meeting either on the 26th, 28th, or 20th. Feelings or thoughts on the council as far as direction?
I'm here any of those dates, so anybody else can decide.
Back from a few, and will staff be working that day? I want to be conscious of their time too, as a holiday and.
It is a work day on the 3rd, but a lot of staff do take that time off since there's a Tuesday holiday.
I think I would prefer just my personal preference. I'll let others weigh in to not do it on July 3rd. Just with the coming into the 4th and.
It would make some sense if we can do it. The 28th, 29th, what, those dates in June?
26th is Monday, 28th is Wednesday, 29th is Thursday. I would just do it like the 26th.
Rather do 28.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're
Closer to the end.
row.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we would be competing with the IMU board meeting on the 26th as well, which is at a different location now, but.
Do the 28th.
I mean, we meet anyway to approve any last minute things or possibly meet anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, usually, yeah. It's up to you guys, folks, whatever you decide. I'm okay with it.
I can do any of it, but I mean,
I don't, Wednesday or Thursday would be my preference. Like I said, weeks in a row, Monday nights. I got other things I do too, so.
28th going once. 28th going twice.
Then 28th.
28th it is. Regular time, same bad time, same bad time.
7 or 6?
You want to have a study session that night or just go right into the regular meeting?
Right into the regular.
7 o'clock?
7 or 6.
7 p.m. 6?
Let's do 6.
Can we not do it at 6?
We just do 6.
6?
Let's do 6.
O'clock.
Right?
Sounds good.
It'll be daylight.
Yeah, 6
Get out of here, Wednesday.
26th, right?
O'clock on the 28th.
The 8th, I'm sorry.
Might need a text reminder.
We'll post the agenda just for you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Another positive thing, the library will be having a Monday food truck event through the month of June and July. So if you want your great lunch, come out and see the food trucks at the library through June and July. So that's good. Trying to get the positive things out there.
That's just lunch, you said, or is it into the evening?
It was lunch.
Just lunch, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Glenn.
All Mondays, June and July.
June and July.
Mondays, okay.
We will have the Hillcrest project kicking off tomorrow. We also have the maintenance of the median kicking off as well. So tomorrow is going to be a little bit tight on your way out of town, but it will be open back up by midday.
You know, if you leave
That
at
will be-
5:30 in the
And then
morning.
when will, so that will be open by midday and then on Hillcrest, I'm sorry, I don't have that map in front of me. Are they starting right there at that intersection?
They're starting at the intersection of Hillcrest and Jefferson and going to 7th Street.
And then how long when's that? I know AP sent it out to us. It was all sent out. AP, when's the completion of that?
Day.
Great, great.
I think, I'm sure it'll be several months, 2 or 3 months as well.
Think before the,
It will definitely not be open for the balloons is what I think there's. a lot of-
construction in that area with our busiest times in town is creates a big backup and nothing we can do, but
Yes.
and have some good weather and get off that corner as fast as possible would be great.
We just need to make sure it's well shown, the detours and where they're going.
It has been a topic of discussion through all of the preliminary planning and all that, and they're very sensitive. Of course, they're local contractors that are impacted by this project.
Perfect.
Well, I don't think any of the balloon traffic goes down.
No,
here.
it doesn't. I'm just thinking if we didn't have construction at that turning
Gotcha.
area
Yeah, okay.
and
I see what you're saying. Yep.
There are people who do.
well, there's lots of people cut through that way.
Get it, yeah.
Traffic by my.
And I'm sure, and I'll send a note to Stacy too, because sometimes they have some landing over that way too. We take Hill. Or she's already figured that, so, all right, thank you.
We've been able to give any more thought to, talking to some of the business owners out there about just regular project updates. Do we have this way so they know things preemptively get off schedule? Is there a weekly update option?
So,
This is especially citizen.
yeah, we had our first public open house meeting where we didn't have, but we have their emails that we can certainly try and see we can see whether we can have a progress update meeting. Progress update meeting is generally for central business districts that we have done frequently, but not on commercial corridors. I've not done that, but we can certainly approach them and see if they are interested. We can give them updates or we can meet them. And
I think just I was talking with Dr. Fox on the way out and some of the concerns for people there is just being able to easily find if there's an issue or delay, or also being easy to find that, hey, everything went great this week. Everything's still on track. I had mentioned to Ben that one of the areas that I work is a large highway project, and UDOT actually started a Facebook page for that project. And they do weekly updates so that everyone just knows,
Nice idea.
instead of having to like scroll through an email to find it as a paragraph, right? It's trying to meet people where they're at, and maybe it's late in the game for this, but something like that would certainly be worth looking at so that business owners and even citizens in the area can just go and, I mean, then it's on us to actually do it every Friday or Thursday or whatever day you decide that is, but then but also probably eliminate some angry phone calls and emails from people that don't know what's going on.
Great idea.
Are you doing the same thing that kind of what Charlie did with the Square project, of like the morning Zoom meetings or something, or?
Those are great.
And people can go in, or they could get in later. I mean, either one of those are fine. I mean, just so that they can zoom in and hear the project meeting or the update meeting and just go from there.
I think that was something that was really spun by
Wanna
the
click?
chamber,
Okay.
back under Brenda when the project was going forward, and it's more in fact impactful, but certainly getting communications and posts out there is probably the quickest way to.
I think the biggest thing is people to understand is that you're still gonna have access to all those businesses out there in that Hillcrest area. It's just, you're gonna have to go out by between Casey's and Hardee's and enter in through there and leave through there. So otherwise, I don't, the nice thing is it's not completely shut down. It's just not as convenient getting in there.
The good thing is Vanderbilt has a lot of contacts for all the businesses there. They have already started communicating with all the business owners there. I know they are personally. So we're just talking about them today too with Vanderbilt. Awesome. And while AP's here, part of my report as well is that Mid-American will be moving their poles as part of this project as well. And a requirement under a franchise agreement is that they not just move the poles, but they underground those wires. They've given us a little bit of pushback on that. We're going to push back harder and say, yes, we want those underground. We just
Are they
want.
scheduled, like we have them like physically scheduled for that work and then be done?
Very optimistic.
I know. Ben, you're usually so optimistic.
Yep, I've dealt with their parent company and their peer company in other states, and it's a challenge. Every project, everywhere, they are behind right now.
On this, they were just trying to schedule, basically to relocate the utility infrastructure. IMU is trying to underground all their utility infrastructure. As a result, they want to basically either have their own poles or underground it. The first question to the city was, do you want to pay for converting this underground for $60,000 is what they have asked for. And checked with our city attorney to see if there's a conflict with the franchisee agreement. And then we have another chapter 113, which requires all utility infrastructures to convert to underground if IMU is also converting their infrastructure underground. So the response we got back from our attorney is MEC or Mid-American Energy should also convert their utility infrastructure to underground. So that's the next approach we will be taking.
Any other questions on that? Thanks, AP. I mentioned Jay Byers coming in as the new college president. That's great. But I also wanted to let the council know that Alicia DeSmit of YMCA is actually stepped down. She's taking a new role at the national level of YMCA, but she stepped and resigned her position as the local Des Moines YMCA. And last, we're really good in these meetings at confessing our sins and when we break laws and all that type of thing. And so I'll admit that I mowed my lawn this week and it rained immediately after and I didn't get a chance to pull off the grass in front of my house. And so throw stones at my house. I just want to.
Well, it wasn't your picture posted, so otherwise I would have been over there to blow it in for you.
I'm so glad. It wouldn't have blown. It was stuck to the ground at that point. So it'll be blown off soon.
Somebody accused my husband of taking a leaf blower and blowing it into storm sewer, which is not true. Not true. So just to clarify.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ben. All right, moving on, I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. Thank you. Second. Jackie?
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Richardson, Schroeder, Ray. Aye.
Hold on, ladies.